I'm here with Keith Weed, Chief Marketing Officer for Unilever in Cannes. With your job as CMO of Unilever, one of the world's largest multinationals, you have to deal with both marketing for today, what's happening today, but also building in the change. And right now we're seeing more change than ever. The pace is accelerating, but also the types of change are diversifying. How do you bring about that attitude towards change, and how do you drive change in an organization of the scale of Unilever?
Well, I think you're completely right. There's been massive amount of change. I've seen more change in the last 5 years than the previous 25 years in marketing. And actually keeping up to that change, marketers have always prided themselves on being ahead of their consumer. But in today's day and age, a lot of them are chasing the consumer because the market's changing so fast. So I think firstly, most importantly, is you have to experiment. You have to be much more adventurous, and you have to be willing to fail. As I always say, fail quickly, fail cheaply if you can, but certainly learn from it so you don't repeat it. I think the whole idea of experimentation, though, needs to go beyond just that. I think you need to think about different business models. So we're experimenting with different business models. We're also working with people in a different way. We're here with 50 startups with the Unilever Foundry.
So what is Unilever Foundry?
So the Unilever Foundry is quite simply, there are startups that have lots of really interesting and engaging and innovative ideas, and also entrepreneurial spirit. And then there's big companies and big brands like ours. Usually it's very hard for them to connect. So what we do with the Unilever Foundry is we set a brief, and then the startups say, well, I could do something on that brief. For the startup, we then help them go from pitch to pilot, but actually we're interested from pilot to scale. But they do the pitch to pilot, and we help them both with some funding. We also give them some coaching and marketing to get them going. And then after that, if they pilot to scale, then that's great for a startup. Working with a brand like Magnum or Dove, very, very exciting. It's great for us because we see real technology, real innovation coming in, and also, I say, entrepreneurial spirit as well. And out of all the work we've done with startups so far, half of them have had positive results. Now, that means half of them didn't. Right. That's a good hit rate.
And how do you bring that in? Because one element of getting a startup, investing in a startup, that's sort of on the exterior. How do you make sure that it's actually coming into the organization and beyond Foundry as well, to make sure that there is a real shift of momentum internally to change things?
Yes, just to be clear, with our startups, we're funding them to create something for a brand. We're not investing. I also have digital. No, I also have the digital ventures where we do invest.
Which is investing.
Yeah, so these are two different things. No, but beyond that, I think more than ever, marketers have to commit to capability development, your own personal capability development. I think you need to be selfish about this. You don't see a football team sitting around all week on a couch eating potato chips and then getting up on Saturday morning and giving it their best. No, they have skills training, they have coaching. In business, for some bizarre reason, skills and capability is left to a side, and too often you have people working hard in meetings or doing emails and not doing capability building.
So how do you do that? What is the mechanism for that? How do you bring about change, maybe even to people who are skeptical that change even needs to happen?
I think it's a good question. So initially, I very much sort of gave people tools that they could engage with, etc. But I've realised you're completely right. What happens is the best people grab that and get better, and then the others who are not so committed to capability building don't.
Why are you changing my job?
So what we actually do now is we've got compulsory training, and it's and you can do this in the digital world. So we do workshops, but then you have e-modules, and our e-modules you have to do a test beforehand. Yeah, and then you have to do the e-module, and then you have to do a test afterwards. Now, this does sound a little bit draconian, but for our 6,000 marketers, all of them done it. I've done the modules. My colleagues on the board have done the modules. Our CEO's even done the modules. Because, as I said to the marketers, if he can find time to do the modules, so can you as well. And the basic ones, just like learning about search and the internet, etc., through to digital media, programmatic buying, etc. But that is, I think, the only way that we can compete in this changing world. You've got to stop chopping wood for a little while to sharpen the axe. And if you sharpen the axe, chopping wood gets a lot easier.
Okay, so there's the internal element, there's bringing in the outside world, there's investing in the outside world. If somebody was about to start at another company trying to scale out this sort of change, what is the first step that they should take? Is it any one of those, or is it?
No, I think the first thing you need to do is I think you need to have a point of view on the future for your particular company or brand. So we do a lot of market research. We're one of the largest commissioners of market research in the world. And so one of the first things I did when I started this job was look forward and say, what are the big trends that are going to impact our business? What are the big trends?
And that's very much on a consumer basis. You're not looking at what is happening in what Silicon Valley investing in or building.
No, to do that is both consumer, but absolutely looking at the market, etc. So, 6 years ago, we made some choices about who we were going to work closely with. We had some good bets. We had some we didn't do so well. Remember, the good bets was we got very close to Facebook and Google. Interestingly, 6 years ago, when I went to Silicon Valley, then Twitter weren't even big enough to have a meeting. So we met Twitter at the bar just before we went to dinner. That's 6 years ago. So it's hardly surprising marketers and advertisers are finding it hard with that amount of change. And now we've got hundreds of millions of people on Twitter. So I think what you need to do is, look outside your business. I often say to my team, bring the outside in, bring the future forward, and that's the only way to equip ourselves for this very fast changing world we're in.
Recommendation for startups, not necessarily apply for Foundry or some investment, but what is the best way that they can relate to a company the scale of Unilever? A startup can kill itself trying to do a project with a large company. Before that comes to fruition, what is the best way to accelerate that?
Well, I mean, the first thing to say about startups is what is the differentiating thing you're going to bring to that brand or business, whatever. As I often say about technology, just because you can doesn't necessarily mean you should. So I think we need choiceful. We need to have startups that are actually bringing something to the consumer experience or bringing something to the brand. And that's the first thing. The second thing you say, that's exactly why we have the Foundry, because startups can kill themselves or even be killed in the process. So we identify that, and that's why between pitch and pilot, A, we give coaching, but B, we also give funding just to take them from the pitch to the pilot. And that way, then we can do the pilot and they can learn. And if you're a startup and you're then with Magnum or Dove, and then suddenly you're being moved across multiple countries, this is a dream come true.
It's also challenges of scaling it on their side, which is I guess where the relationship with the Unilever can help and exactly. have that single point of contact and approach to things.
Absolutely.
You're saying, I love the coin of phrase about how formerly it was the creative leading technology. Now it's technology leading creative in a way. What would you highlight as the specific areas that is taking place most?
Well, I think the most striking thing is around mobile and video. I mean, we might say, well, gosh, we haven't been talking about that for ages. We have. I think there's a think-do gap in mobile. Everyone talks about mobile. We're all acutely aware. We all have one in our pockets right now. But when you look at the creative experience on mobile, I just don't think it's good enough. And one of the big challenges, and we're seeing a lot of people here, is how do we make mobile and video so much of a better experience? Of course, with mobile, of course, comes data, and it's really great data because you have location data, you've got data about where you live, etc. So I think that has got a long way to play. But of course, just around the corner, and we can see it here in Cannes, is excitement around virtual reality. I've seen some augmented reality.
What is your take on the virtual reality thing? Is this buzz and hype, or is there substance to it and value for brands?
I think there's absolute substance, and I think it's incredibly exciting. If you think about it, the early days of communication, go back to the Cavemen, yeah? They put paintings all the way over the caves. It was a 360 experience. And then a few hundred years ago, we got caught in a rectangular box. And whether that be a painting done by or whether that be a cinema screen, or whether that be a television, or whether that be a tablet getting smaller, or a mobile phone. But actually all of those are a moving picture inside a rectangular box. We have been rectangular boxed for decades. Now imagine, throw away the rectangular box. You can have an all-immersive experience around you in virtual reality. I think it's incredibly exciting. Now what we're seeing right now are these big clunky things here. But if you remember the early days of mobile phones, they're these huge big bricks, yeah?
Right.
So virtual reality hasn't had its iPhone moment yet. But when it does, it will transform, and then I think we'll all be doing it. So for brands, it's better storytelling, and that's what brands do best. there'll be better storytelling, it'll be really exciting.
Mass personalization, is this an opportunity that brands have taken up enough? Is this a trend we'll see more of?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. We've gone from mass marketing to massive customization, and that swing I think is a really exciting one. I think we're seeing it right now with media buying, with programmatic media buying, where there's no point sending me diaper ads. I don't have a little baby,
Right.
And I'm sure there's things that you don't want to have ads of. It's irritating to have those ads.
Generally, things I've just bought. I get lots of ads for things I just bought.
Exactly. So we can do a lot better on sort of programmatic media buying, and we are. And as it gets more sophisticated, it will save branded companies money, and it will be, say, less annoying for you as well. But the exciting thing that's ahead of us is programmatic creative. Because if I know that you like cooking cakes, why am I sending you the same ad as someone else? Even if we're being more choiceful about who we're sending ads to, why aren't I designing an ad for you? And we've just done a campaign on Axe in Brazil, where we had 100,000 different options of a film. So it's vignettes. It's called Romeo Reboot, but with 100,000 options. So and in those microseconds, as the screen loads up, not only will we say, you like fast cars and this type of music or whatever, not only are we then buying you because you're the sort of guy we want to buy, we're also creating a film just for you. And we saw a 170% increase in retention. And if you think about it, it's got common sense. You would be more interested if I'm showing you stuff you're interested in. And I think the idea of individual communication is going to be a massive challenge for the industry, but I think it's going to be a real benefit for all of us as individuals.
Excellent. That's a wonderful set of future trends. My favorite one, however, being that we're heading to the era of the cave, back to the era of the cave painting.
That's what virtual reality is all about.
Thank you very much, Keith.
Yeah, nice talking to you.